Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I have hands down the coolest map to show you. I know I've said that the past couple times, but I think this map is absolutely astounding. You guys are kind of getting a flyover kind of cinematic view, the best that I could do. And I have to say, the map is awesome and it kind of gets that realistic feeling in it. We only got a chance to play a couple games to test, but I have to say, it felt real and it felt like that urgency that you have in a real game and that farming on the go, as well as having multiple players in a map where the altitude is changing, is a lot different than the typical zone wars. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to have some gameplay towards the end, as well as I'm going to kind of talk about the map and give you guys some things to know. So if you're looking to start off a zone rotation, there is a spawn pad here. So if you are in a full 16 player lobby, a player will spawn there and it is their responsibility to shoot one of the quads that will start the zone rotation. Now, if you're not in a full 16 player lobby, I recommend just telling everybody to wait a couple seconds while one of the players who spawns relatively close just runs over and shoots one of the quads to get the zones rolling. Now, there's 4 different zones and they all end in different areas of the map, so this is kind of a requirement, as I can't have the zones auto start as there's 4 different ones. Now, there is the zones coming out of the borders, and sometimes they do take a couple of seconds, so just hold tight while they start to work their way in. Moving over into endgame, there is these damage volumes, which will tick 5 health every 2 seconds, and the zone doesn't automatically push you in, so you can just kind of chill on the outside until the zone forces you to. That is alright, but once the zone does push up against that volume, you are required to stay in there, and it's kind of like an honor thing. So if you are playing, just make sure to follow the rules, as this is where you're going to get the best practice, and it is pretty fun to play in those late game situations. Now, another thing about the map that we couldn't have too much control over is some of the mountains you can't place the best in, especially these ones that are tilted, as if we do place wood in there, or like a ramp or a wall, you can kind of take up too much space and they'll point out, so it looks kind of bad. As you can see, there's a little wood sticking out there. So we did our best, but just hang tight with us because we couldn't get everything perfect. As you'll see in some areas, it's kind of bad. And at that point, just place down a ramp and then floor ramp. It's not too hard and it shouldn't mess up too much, and we didn't really feel like it was bad when we were pushing up the mountains. But just remember that is a thing, and in some of those mountainy areas, just make sure to take a couple extra seconds. But thankfully, a lot of the walls on the mountains are solid, so if you're falling down, you can catch yourself. Alright, so now I'm going to kind of talk over the gameplay and address some of the questions and concerns you guys have had with some of the previous maps we have put out, and kind of tell you guys what our philosophy is with those. But before I do that, I do want to kind of direct you guys towards Thieves and Bunn and their socials, because they helped me out a ton with this map. Bunn built the cool looking castle mountain and really kind of helped us with the icebergs, as they are a pain in the butt to place and position correctly, as well as Thieves has helped me with the past couple editions of this map and some of the old ones, as well as testing and doing everything. We've put a ton of time into this map. I have to say probably close to 40 hours alone. So please go check out their socials. I'm gonna have them linked down in the description, and I'm sure most of you know they're pretty heavily involved with the community, so I definitely recommend going and giving them some love for all the help that they did. One thing I do want to mention is the fact that that loud alarm noise in the back of the map will not be in the map you guys are getting. I ended up fixing it, and at the cost of there being no hoverboards or quads in the map. So unfortunately we couldn't make that work, but the damage zones ended up taking them out and making that obnoxious noise. So maybe Epic will allow us to change a setting in the future to allow those, which would be pretty cool. But to kind of address some of the questions you guys have been putting our way for things such as, why does the zone do a straight a limb? Now, that is something I wish we could change. However, Epic just doesn't really have that many options for us at the current moment. Now, the reason we ended up going with the straight a limb instead of doing multiple zones to replicate the storm is the fact of simplicity in a map, especially like this, where simplicity is going to be key, because I didn't want the fact that if there was 4 or 5 zones, that the zones end up kind of confusing a player of where they are, what direction they might have to head, and especially with the shifting zone, it's a little bit harder as well. But If a player is, in between, 2 or 3 zones and they're not sure which one is the one that will actually eliminate them, it can be kind of frustrating and a struggle for them, and I didn't really want that to be a problem in this kind of map. So I ended up not going that way, and we tested it a couple times, and we all felt like this was probably the better way to kind of deal with the situation. Now, a couple things that we did end up implementing from you guys, as well as things that we kind of wanted to add anyways, were kind of like the terrain, more things to farm on your rotates, stuff like that, as it does add a lot to the map, especially for the realism of Zone Wars. And for the fact that we were able to customize the terrain in some sort of way, I feel like really adds another great layer to this map, especially with my old terrain map, the one that we kind of been using in the Discord for a while now. It's great and all, but there's not too many drastic height changes that you do see in this map. But I do want to get your guys' opinions as well as feedback on the kind of drastic changes, especially with the bigger mountains, as well as some of the areas that are kind of newer, especially for the fact that we have an area that goes downwards. Let us know how you like all the areas. If you want us to change some things, we are definitely looking into tweaking this map, as well as releasing some other kind of game modes and kind of game rule settings within this map. Another big thing to keep in mind is the fact that there are a lot of creative mode glitches, as creative mode is still kind of being worked on from the Epic Games guys. So definitely don't get frustrated if something goes wrong with this map. Sometimes it's things that I simply can't fix. For example, tonight me and another player actually got a bug where we couldn't even ADS, so we ended up having to play out a couple games without even being able to aim down our sights, which sucks, but it's just something we got to deal with for now as they continue to develop this game mode. And I mean, for some of the things that go wrong, it's not too big of a deal. As well, I do recommend resetting this map as much as possible. Sometimes the zones may take a little bit long to close. I think zone 4 will be probably one of the longer ones you're gonna have to wait for. So I do recommend resetting the map as much as possible, because it'll kind of help with some of the minuscule bugs that I can't do too much about. But for the most part, all of these zones should reset pretty fast, and you can kind of jump from game to game as long as you make it pretty far within the previous match. Alright, so that's going to wrap up the video there, guys. I hope you did enjoy, and I hope you all enjoyed this map as much as we have so far. And if you have any questions or you have anything you want to suggest about the map, make sure to leave it down in the comments. I take nearly everything into account that you guys say, as you guys can see a ton of it's been implemented already. So I definitely appreciate all the help and ideas you guys throw my way. Definitely keep them coming. As well, don't forget to subscribe, like, and as well check out Thieves and Bunn. They help me out with a ton of stuff all the time. So make sure to go show them some love. And I'll see you guys all tomorrow.